Started. Welcome to the Heritage Farms Wetland Restoration Open House. Some things to know. This meeting's being recorded. Virtual guests can use the chat tool to participate in the discussion. Questions and comments will be held until the Q&A portion of the event. So as I go through the presentation, just hold your questions to the very end. We'll get to them. County staff in attendance, we have Joe Honor and Dave Daly from the design section. We have Marty Butler, Jeff Schnabel, Julie Christian, and Devin Rossberg, sorry. And they're with the Clean Water Group. We have Pam Chinsey with permitting. David Stipe and Rocky Houston. I haven't seen Rocky here tonight. They're with the Parks and the Land Group. Kaylee Burton and Haley Shannon with the Community Engagement and Inclusion. And I'm Scott Bachler. I'm the project manager for this project. I'll call up the project team at the end of my presentation, and then I'll go around in the audience with the microphone questions. Current conditions out there. You can see the ditch. It's just south of the parking lot there. It runs east to west. Right now, it's a ditch about 3 cells. The cells are established by the gravel driveways that are out there. Some background information on this project. This project was included as part of the Heritage Farm 2020 Master Plan. The master plan calls for enhancements to Cougar Creek watershed and wetland areas. Existing crossings will be maintained and used to access the trail loop, community garden, agricultural fields in this project's finished. Project overview. The purpose of this project is to restore the natural headwater wetland by creating a series of shallow wet sills along the existing ditch to promote infiltration, raise the groundwater elevation, and improve wetland hyperbarrier. We're proposing 8 wet cells. They're shallow. I wanted to emphasize that they're not these deep pools of water. The project will restore as much as possible the natural function of this headwater wetland located in the Cougar Creek sub-watershed of the Salmon Creek watershed. In doing so, it will provide substantial wetland restoration and enhancement. The planting goal is to restore natural headwater wetlands vegetated buffer with forested and shrub plant species. This project, which is approximately 6 acres in size, will be seeded with native grasses, rushes, sedges, and flowering flower. In addition to seeding, approximately 3,000 native plants and shrubs will be planted. The landscape will have more open density throughout, which will provide views of the site as well as allow county maintenance staff to access the infrastructure. The expected benefits of this project. This project is going to increase groundwater. It's going to increase the summer stream flow, enhance the summer stream flow, improve overall water quality, improve water clarity by reducing sediment, reduce summer water temperatures in Cougar Creek, and Cougar Creek flows into Salmon Creek, so thus the improvements made here will also benefit Salmon Creek. The anticipated project schedule. Right now, we're preparing the permit documents, and we're expecting to submit those in June of 2024. And it's about 9 months to get approval. So we're expecting February 2025, we'll have approved environmental documents. We're working right now on the 90% plan set, and we expect to deliver that in July 2020. The 99% plans will be delivered in December of 2020. And then the final plans will be delivered in March of 2025, which is about a month after we get all the permits in place. Will be on advertisement to get a contractor on board that same month, so in March of 2025. And then I anticipate that we'll begin construction a year from this June 2025. I expect this to be a one-season project with native plants being installed in November, December, once the weather gets cooler and wetter in 2025. We'll have substantial completion, and that's once all the initial plannings is completed. And then the contractor will need to maintain and replace any plants that need replacing in a 2-year window. And that once that happens, physical completion of the project will be issued. There's a long-term management plan, which is another 8 years of site maintenance that the county. So in total, there's a 10-year window of management plan for these plantings. Project funding. So through the Washington State Department of Ecology Water Quality Combined Funding Program, Heritage Farms Wetland Restoration Project was awarded in 2020 a Centennial Clean Water Program grant of $500,000. This requires a 25% match from the Clean Water Fund. And that's in the amount of $166,667. In 2024, earlier this year, Clark County received a draft loan offer from the Washington State Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund Program for Green Project Reserve in the category of environmentally innovative projects in the amount of $3,448,107. Some highlights of this grant: there's no match required. It's a low interest rate loan, a 20-year loan, with potentially up to 25% of this loan. Clean Water Fund contributes $321,893,000. And that includes that 25% match talked about earlier. The total project cost is $4.27 million. The Heritage Farm Wetland Restoration Project, this shows the existing ditch with the existing wetland boundary and then the buffer. There is an existing sanitary line that we will need to relocate. It's about 1,600 lineal feet of 10-inch sanitary line that's going to be moved to the north. This is showing the existing ditch that's out there. Wish I had a pointer. This doesn't happen. Sorry. Proposed improvements. So it's going to be 8 cells like I talked about earlier. They will be connected with a series of pipes and berms on each side. Uphill side of the access roads will have control structures. This slide shows where the proposed sanitary sewer will be located. It shows we need a 35-foot vegetated wetland buffer. It shows the new wetland boundary. All these are shown up here on the exhibits too, so we can look at it more closely after the meeting if you have questions. This is just the blown up scale, the west half plan review. The gravel drive access roads that are out there today, they'll remain. We're gonna have a split wood rail fence on both sides of the access road. The existing weather station, that stays. This shows the existing and proposed sanitary sewer, and then that 35-foot vegetated wetland. travel access road. It's going to be 12-foot wide with 2-foot shoulders on each side. And that split rail fence is located about a foot off the edge of the gravel drive. Still landscape plan that's out there. Like I mentioned earlier, 3,000 plants. It's a very busy drawing. On the east and west ends, we're going to have our taller trees. There's no height restriction. As we get closer to the weather station, there are height restrictions on plants and trees, and I think it says they have to be less than 20 feet. And I'm not sure what that radius is around the weather station, but it's going to be considerably, the height restriction will be in place. Some of the plant information. So the buffer area, the vegetated buffers, just some of the plants we have shown here: red flowering currant, serviceberry, dwarf checker bloom, thimbleberry. In the wetland areas, we planted salmonberry, Nootka rose, small camas, red ozer dogwood, giant red paintbrush, Pacific willow, Douglas fire area, spruce sedge. The plants on the left-hand side is additional plants that will be out there, and we've labeled pollinators. And in addition, the giant red paintbrush, which is listed, that's also here's an example of a similar wetland planning project that the county did back in 2015. So once it was completed, looks kind of bare. But give it a few years and it looks good. So 4 years later, it's very vegetated. My contact information, numbers 564-397-4648. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My email address is also up there. You can email me all your questions, and then I'll get it to the right person to be answered. The recording of this meeting, it will be uploaded to the project website within 10 business days. Of the open house, and then below there is the project website afterwards. Questions and answers. Once again, you can email them to me at my email address shown there. In-room participants, raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you. And online participants, type your question into the chat feature, and your question will be read aloud in the space. At this time, the project team wants to come up, and then I'll go around. That's good.
Anyone who wants to answer the question, I was thinking about water retention project, and with our dry, hot summers, how are you going to address keeping water in their ground?
So we've sized all the pipes and berms to hold as much water as possible without possibly upstream. And also there's been discussion about installing the valve on the pipes and actually close it during the dry season. So to keep that water in themselves even more and then hopefully recharge the stream very quickly as well.
community gardener with the community gardens, and I was just wondering what kind of protections could be ensured with the public access trail on the backside. Currently, we have a contract system where it sort of gets a tour, there's a basic kind of understanding on the etiquette that folks have there, but with the public access trail, is there any kind of invitation to keep the gardens secure fashion?
We actually, I'm assuming you're talking about the access. And so we actually started to develop those drawings and had a public meeting. I believe that we have a listening session scheduled, or we've already held one. Lindy Wallach isn't here to see, so there's been the exact date. As we committed in the sustainability plan development for the farm and in the Hazeldale master plan development, work with our farm partners to mitigate the risks of having additional people access the farm with new fencing, new security checkpoints, and those sorts of things. So there won't be unfettered access to the for that operations part of. I'm working with Christine on a potential plan to actually expand the community garden. So there's sort of an inside the fence, outside the fence sort of opportunity. We've also looked at gardens down on the flag lot, flag part of Hazeldale where it's so we can actually provide more opportunity for folks that want to have garden plots. It's a very popular offering that we have. I know that our Pacific community garden is full and there's a waiting list there. So we're looking at ways to handle the security concerns. It's been an ongoing topic with the sustainability plan. It's a little mentioned.
Hi, I'm just wondering about the sanitation lines and whether sanitation lines are going to, what would affect the main administration?
And much people are here going, oh, find out. That's a really great question.
Because I work in the main administration building, staff do. It is effective. It's just for us to have a heads up how long. Making sure that we can figure out accommodations, why it's being moved. If it's gonna be effective.
I would assume, like most sanitary sewer line projects, that there may be periodic disconnections. But I would also assume that the most of the rerun section would be in place, and then they would abandon the section. So it wouldn't be like zoning probably during the day where you say, okay, no toilet flushing. So, but we will definitely work with the design team, will work with the farm partners on that, because I'm assuming that we're using sewer lines.
This or big objective is to improve water quality. And so I'm wondering what kind of sampling has been done. Speech and what's planned going forward.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple of things, Sand Creek and River Creek in particular are long-term monitoring areas that the town has looked at for a long time. We have data from back to around 1998 or 2000 at locations downstream of Heritage Farm, quite a ways down, down around 119th Street crossing. Sure. It isn't far from this pilot, but we feel that there's a good baseline point there to be able to look and see what we're doing for the downstream Sand Creek water quality. We are in the process of developing a longer-term monitoring procedure specifically for the farm project. So we will be going in and doing some water level monitoring, see what kind of level of wetland development we actually achieve at the end of the day. We're also going to look hopefully at some of the turbidity or the water clarity coming in, out. We should see some additional improvement to those wetland cells as the plants slow water, let some of that clarification happen. And as someone said already, I think temperature downstream both through Sand Creek is a big deal for this spot. This is one of the coldest tributaries that we have going to Salmon Creek in summertime. So Salmon Creek being an important recovery area for salmonids, I think coho salmon are the ones that are kind of coming back there now. And so we want to maintain that cold water inflow during the summer by putting that water in the ground, and holding it, and letting it seep out during the summer. We should see some improvement, sort of this protection of that cold water source. Does that help?
Can I ask when you ask your question, if you could just state your name for the recording, so it helps us develop notes and just keep track of comments and interests. That'd be great. If you're not comfortable doing it, that's fine as well.
I'm Jack Bernardson from the Master Gardener Foundation, Clark County. And my concern, a shared concern, is access, but it's the other side of access. How do we access this during the construction period? And it looks like the foundation probably dodged a bullet here, not starting until June, because we raise young plants and sell them in May, and they're taken out. But for the other tenants, they're just in the middle of it. The food bank, the fruit trees and so forth, and of course the community gardens and other tenants, they're going to need some access. So I'm assuming that there's going to be a real careful plan to make sure that they're able to get in and out.
Thanks for the comment. I think so it's a good comment. We're at the as Scott said, just out of the permitting phase for the plans. So our design progression will go through 90% design development. We're constantly adding more detail and more specification to the project. Something that's great to hear from you and from anybody is what are some of those important timeframes, important areas that we ought to be paying special attention to when we're writing contract specifications. If we can communicate upfront with our contractors, the earlier in the project, the better, like right at the beginning, so that they know what to expect and they know what's important to the people that use the different areas. So I'd be happy to talk to you a little more afterwards and jot some notes, get back to them, figure out when those important access.
Is there any chance that you will allow any more Doug fir trees on the property? Or native plants? I noticed in your plant selection, does it include any of the larger trees?
Yes, there's going to be larger trees. We have the weather stations to work around, but as landscape develops or progresses, it's for taller trees on either end of the site and not so much around the weather stations. So there's buffer plants and upland plants, and we have lots of different species, but there will be different species as well. Hi, Christine Curry for the NBC Extension. And as you mentioned about trees, it just made me certain areas that consider like there things are being as far as swamp goes. Again, we don't necessarily want to have trees that grow too large in areas that are they're right next to things that are being farmed. So I would think that that's maybe a consideration too. And I was just thinking when you asked about considerations for stakeholders that we may want to have, or something that goes out to all the stakeholders for them to be able to give you different considerations of things that are happening just before you start, so that they're very aware of the accommodations that they need to make.
So we can bring the 60% planting plan to a farm advisory team meeting, have a conversation. Fortunately, the creek is to the north of the planting area, so we don't have a lot of, where you might have some afternoon shade and some early morning shade. That western hill area might get some afternoon shade or some of the trees over there, but we can have a conversation and shift some things around if we need to shift some things around.
Plans to reintroduce native fauna like frogs, small fish, dragonflies and things like that, or were they just kind of move in from some big areas?
Yeah, no specific plans, but we would expect the whole that some of those species filter back in from adjacent wetlands to take advantage of that habitats.
Shelters, Mr. Gardner, former Clean Water Commission. Just want to say I'm really glad to see this project getting going, getting on the ground. Are there wetlands further to the east that was rolled that also feed into this? Trying to get a sense of the watershed boundary relationships and
Absolutely, yeah, there is a wetland just upstream to the east, some of the area around where the bingo hall was, there's some wetland between bingo hall and the eastern boundary of the Heritage Farm property. We do think that that is already providing us some good habitat and some good buffer on that side from some of the more developed areas. We're probably very close to the top of the watershed. So we call this a headwater wetland restoration. There's not a lot of drainage from above, although it does get quite a bit of water because everything that's up there is very heavily developed. So the water comes off there pretty heavy and pretty fast. And we got some subdivisions up there. That 7th Street that comes in, various other things. So a significant amount of water. So we are going to map very carefully during the winter months to keep that water moving and make sure that it's not causing any problems, flooding lines or anything like that. And then, again, hopefully that upper part will also be helping us provide some water in the summer. So it's also worth noting that Cougar Creek
on that eastern end flows into road right away. And then there's one in-holding piece of property, between the right of way and piece of property that we recently purchased with public park improvement fund dollars, the hidden property. It's a property that was for sale for a while. And we closed on that last year, I think, and so it's about halfway on steep slope. So there's some opportunities for us to invasives before they actually get into this beautiful new wetland. So
Got those public there. I see one of those homes plant large trees. Are they aware of that? Is that going to make them upset, or are they okay with?
I'm not sure whether we've reached out to the trailer owners. I don't know if those are rentals sites or whether it's a fee simple arrangement, but I have to look back at our public record to see if we've had anybody attend from that community. And we flyered where we put signs in all the surrounding neighborhoods, those little yard signs. And we've been doing it as part of our public outreach for Abel Park and Park, not showing Brick Park, but I'm not aware of anybody public meetings that lives in that.
Just want to put you on the western end, there's a berm that maintenance crews made access from time to time. So I believe, I need to double check, but I believe I proposed no trees or shrubs within 20 feet of that corner, just to allow room. I'd have to double check, but certainly if you're really concerned that that's still too close with trees, then we can address that.
Any more questions? Are there any questions online?
What percent of the total project cost is related to the sewer relocation?
So the sewer line, yeah, that's a significant component. We discovered that there was that coincident line that someone pointed out before. It runs essentially east-west through the entire project extent and right down by where the current stream channel ditch channel is. And so the only way to do this project is to move that thing out of the way by the time we actually excavate and get to where we need to be to make a wetland. Again, right into that sewer line, unfortunately. Either you break it or it's a problem for the wetland down the line. But we can need to work on it. So it is a considerable piece of the cost. I want to say it's about $750,000 or $800,000 for the cost. So the total project cost about $4.27 million. So it's a significant portion, certainly not bulk, but good question. It's a large part of it, and that'll probably be the part that's done first as we move the pipe out of the way.
the wetland. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I was talking as later in the room.
On the excavated materials, are those gonna be hauled off-site or are you guys repurposing that on-site as part of construction?
A little bit unsure, 100% right now. I think, like I mentioned earlier, we're at about a 60% level design, which means we know the extents of the grading areas, we know the elevations of grading areas, we have some calculations for volume of material we're moving, but as we continue to design progression, we need to look and see, how much of that material is potentially reusable versus not, and so it's not that far yet, but just as a general practice, if we can, it makes sense to use it on site for extra costs, hauling things off, so that's always we're starting with.
Any more questions? Okay, exhibit boards here and then against the west wall over there. We'll be here till 8. Let's want to look at the boards and have questions towards